There are tons of different unique Digimon within the card game ever since it was released. With well over 2,000 cards, we got some that are fan favorites ranging from Omnimon, Imperialdramon, Jesmon, Mastermon, and so much more. However, there are some cards and decks that are often left out which barely see any competitive representation, yet alone even played as they have been lost deep within the bulk. Today, we're going to explore some of these cards and archetypes and talk about them. First things first, I just wanted to clarify that the Why Nobody Plays series doesn't necessarily mean that absolutely no one plays the decks or the cards. I'm very sure that some of you guys who are watching right now do have some of these decks made just for in-house casual games. At the end of the day, all of this is just very subjective, as this series is just really trying to highlight why some of these cards or decks are barely seeing play even at local tournament levels. These kinds of videos are not intended to shame on the deck or fans of the Digimon, but rather as an opportunity to critically analyze what didn't work well and what areas of improvements can be made to make it better. Whether these decks are just not performing consistently or certain cards being lost with its goal and identity, I think this would be a really cool segue to get the conversation going. In every episode, I will cover key cards of the deck and the win condition that it's trying to accomplish, but where it also misses the mark. I would also include some of my own opinions on what changes that I would personally make to improve the playability. And for today's episode, we'll be covering the Mamemon Digivolution line. If you guys enjoyed discussion videos like these on the channel, then be sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for more. Also, don't forget to give this video a like while you're at it, and I greatly appreciate the support from all of you. Mamemon comes in various forms and sizes throughout its Digivolution. The most iconic appearance is the level 5 Mamemon, which is the ultimate form. This card first debuted from BT6 Double Diamond as a standalone card which was black and a super rare as well. It has a simple effect of decoy, and on deletion, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost 7 or less. This particular Mamemon came with an alt art within the same set, and then got another one later down the road from the 25th Special Memorial Pack. Interestingly, this wasn't actually the first ever Mamemon card to be introduced to the card game, as Metal Mamemon from BT3 actually came out first. Eventually, Mamemon continued to get a couple of more new support cards here and there in the form of Big Mamemon, Thundermon, Catch Mamemon, Bancho Mamemon, and even Prince Mamemon. Thundermon can be also treated as a Mamemon within its name, which has a bit of synergy within the archetype. Catch Mamemon can help set up Mamemon related cards to the top of your deck, so then it can combo with other effects that lets you play even more Mamemons for free later on. Bancho Mamemon is the first level 6 mega of the archetype. It has a when Digivolving effect, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. For each of your opponent's Digimon, you get to play one Digimon card with Mamemon in its name and a memory cost of 10 or less among them. And then you trash the remaining cards. Its secondary effect also gains security +1 as long as you have another Mamemon name in play. For BT11 Dimensional Phase, we got a new Mamemon with a fairly promising effect, and it lets you potentially play Tamers for free by revealing the top 5 cards of your deck when it's played or Digivolved. You can return the remaining cards back to the top or the bottom of the deck so that you can plan ahead for your next steps and combos. Its Inheritable also gives one of your Digimon blocker until the end of opponent's next turn when you play another Digimon via an effect. Overall, the effects of this card is very good, which can be splashed into many other decks for generic strategies, and it shows a bit of resemblance when it comes to supporting its own archetype at the same time. In BT13, we got the first debut of Prince Mamemon, which is very similar to Bancho Mamemon and lets you potentially play even more Mamemons. It has a secondary effect giving all your Mamemon related Digimon jamming and reboot, supporting the slight offensive style of the deck. There's also Mame Taramon from BT7 and another Metal Mamemon from EX1, but both these cards don't synergize with the Mamemon core at all since they were designed to be played with other decks instead. The dedicated option card of the archetype is Senbon Dokkan. It allows you to play any number of Digimon cards with Mamemon in its name up to the play cost of 15 or less for free. It deletes your opponent's Digimon with 6 or less cost as well for every Mamemon played via this effect at the same time. Even though 9 memory cost is very steep, this card alone can snowball all the combos of the deck and eventually build a sideboard quickly with it. This is one of the archetype's strengths, as it doesn't heavily require a stack building playstyle where the top and boss Digimon cards are capable of establishing advantages all by themselves. As we can see, there aren't many Mamemon cards available within the current card pool, but it is still possible to come up with a fully functional deck. Here is my current build of the deck, which follows the archetypes that was designed to do by playing as many Mamemons as possible for free and then start attacking. There's also Omnimon Zwart, which is a really nice tech card where you can include to help you play even more Mamemons, since its effect facilitates very greatly in comboing with all the other effects within the whole archetype. Other than that, there aren't many other different Mamemon builds that you can approach, since the cards are relatively restrictive based on their effects, and it limits the deck building creativity. The only exception would be the BT11 Mamemon, which is very splashable in many other decks, since its effect is pretty universal like I mentioned and can provide a decent amount of value at times. With attempts of trying to make the deck work, it is possible to identify all the gaps and weaknesses it has as we take a look at what the issues are. To state the obvious reasons first, it is clear that the archetype does not have enough support based on the current card pool which we have, and it is also one of its main weaknesses. The setup isn't necessarily slow. It can be fairly explosive at times, creating a wide board with Mamemons, but the amount of memory required to spend is way too much as you end up passing a lot to your opponent. Therefore, most modern decks can quickly capitalize from it and easily answer the board or even clear it, since the Mamemon deck lacks protection and disruptions during the opponent's turns. Other than just the scarcity of defense, the archetype also fails to excel in the offensive side of things to reliably win games. Although the main idea is to play Mamemons for free and then utilize the level 6s to gain certain advantages, there isn't enough explosiveness or value when you're doing so. There's also a slight barrier when it comes to utilizing the gacha style that it has. Indeed, there are individual cards that can help set up and plan the top decks ahead of time, but it takes too long to perform the combos as there usually isn't enough memory to do both of them in the one single turn. In a nutshell, the archetype suffers from being able to have a firm goal of attacking or defending, nor creating noticeable impacts with the game with its distinct playstyle either. Another huge problem that the archetype has is that it does not have any reliable level 3s or 4s that directly support Mamemon in particular. Referring back to the build I attempted, Thundermon is the only card that is somewhat relevant but doesn't have any other effects, which is the level 4. Every other card in the deck is pretty much just generic black Digimon color fillers other than level 5s and 6s. Furthermore, there is no dedicated tamer for the deck whatsoever, and with that in mind, most top performing decks these days usually contain a specific tamer that directly supports the archetype and supplies resources or combo executions. Even though there is the Izzy memory tamer, it's simply just not enough for Mamemon to thrive against all the other decks. The Mamemon deck and archetype desperately need support, and until then, it will continue to stay within the fun and casual tier unless we receive new and large amounts of support in the future. Speaking of potential future support, there aren't any news or leaks seen just yet during the time of making this video. But just like all the other decks and archetypes we discuss on this series, there is always potential with the different avenues of improvement for the archetype to become better than it currently is. Here are some of my own suggestions and takes on what we could and should expect to have the deck become stronger. Looping back to the point of missing level 3s and 4s, the prior forms of Thundermon are Kokuamon and Elecmon, which can easily be rookie choices for future support. Just like all other rookies, one of them can be the dedicated searcher of the deck, but can also provide memory as a inheritable whenever you play a Mamemon via an effect or by paying the memory cost. Another unique approach is having some sort of effect that lets you stack specific Mamemons to the top of the deck, either from the hand or trash, to improve the consistency of hitting specific cards that you want to see to synergize with the combos. A new Thundermon card can also be very beneficial. It can consist of additional effects such as turbo digivolving through the line, or playing additional Mamemons when specific conditions are met as well. Another prior form of Mamemon other than Thundermon is interestingly enough to be Seigermon, and there's also Betamon and Syakomon that digivolves from it. And this is a very good example where it can open up to even further opportunities for the card game to include even more support for this archetype. There's also Tonosama Mamemon, which is another mega level 6 that Mamemon can branch off into when digivolving. This is another chance where the archetype can receive a really good level 6 boss monster to tie it all together with all the other related cards through various means. Moreover, it will be really nice to see new option cards with Tonosamemon and Prince Mamemon, just like how Bancho Mamemon already has with Senbon Dokkan. Following up with the conversation regarding tamers, it can support the deck via placing cards back to the top of the deck for when digivolving, similar to Ayamako Tamer dedicated for the Bylzamon deck. Or it can even somehow let you play Mamemon for free after meeting specific requirements too. Since Mamemon is mainly a black-based deck, there are still several mechanics that is missing from the particular color, such as blocker and de-digivolve, and these can be included as well into the deck but not necessary towards the core strategy. These are some concepts I came up with. Let me know what ideas you guys might have and want to share in the comments down below. You can also now vote for which Digimon and archetype you would like to see me cover for the next episode by going to the channel community tab. But also don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for the results. Now if you haven't seen the last episode of Dan Devimon, then be sure to watch it right now. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is Vault, signing